Hello everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to demonstrate how to create a static website that will be hosted through Google Firebase. As a prerequisite, there are two URLs that I'd like you to have open in your browser that are in the description. One of them is the GitHub repository for Node Version Manager. This will allow us to install the Node Package Manager and Node.js on a Windows computer. If you're on a Unix-based system, the installation portion of this tutorial won't really help you, but the latter portion of the tutorial will still apply to your system directly. The other URL that you must have open is Google Firebase, and you must be logged into Google Firebase through your Gmail account. So whatever account you're using for YouTube or for Gmail will be the same one you use for Google Firebase. From there, we can go and hit Get Started, and that'll take you to the Firebase console. I have two other Firebase projects. You won't have those, but you will have this Add Project button, and that's actually the first thing we're going to do. We're going to add a project to our Firebase account. So you can give the project whatever name you want, like the name of your site. If it's like a personal site, maybe your name. It doesn't really matter too much. The user won't actually see this. Or at least once you create a custom domain, the user won't see this. I also like enabling Google Analytics for projects because it allows you to see like which country your users come from, how many users you have, and a lot of other interesting stats. And you must just select an account for Google Analytics, so just say default account for Firebase, and then just hit create project. It's quite quick to create a project. I'll be back once the process is finished. Firebase just finished creating the project, so you can now just hit continue, and it'll take you to the actual dashboard for this project. What we want to do now is just create a web application. I find this just makes the process later on a little bit easier. So just hit web, I'll just specify the same name that the project has as the name of my web app, and then just say also set up Firebase hosting and just hit register app. And you can just go next through this entire process because Firebase will actually do all of this automatically for us, and I'll go through it all in the tutorial. Cool, so we have created a project and a web application. Now we want to install Node Version Manager on our system. So we're done with Firebase for now, and we can go back to this GitHub repository for NVM. You can scroll down in this, and there's this hyperlink here that says download the latest installer from the releases. So just click that. This will give you a list of all of the versions of Node Version Manager that have been released. The current release is 1.1.7. It might be slightly different for you, but the installation process should be very similar. There'll be a bunch of different assets here. You can just click on nvm-setup.zip. That's the one we're looking for. It'll download it quickly. You can click it to open the archive. That's if you've got WinRAR installed. You might have to extract it. The main thing is that you want to get to this nvm-setup.exe. So you want to get to that file to double click it to run it. Whether you're double clicking it in File Explorer or in WinRAR like this doesn't really matter. You get to this user access control to allow it to make changes to the system. You can click yes and say I accept the agreement, and just next through leave the default option for everything and just hit install. Okay, that'll install NVM Node Version Manager for Windows. You can click finish there. Okay, so NVM is now installed, which means we'll be able to access it in command prompt. So that's where we're going to head now. So you can minimize your browser. I'm just going to create a folder on my desktop. You can put your folder wherever you want. This is the folder that's going to hold all the files for our website. So I'm going to say new folder, and I'm just going to call mine static-project because that's the name of the project on Firebase as well. You can technically call it whatever you want. It's not too serious. Can open that folder like so. Next, I want to open up command prompts. So you can go to Windows, you can type CMD there to search for it. You can also just scroll and find it that way, like just scroll to C, and you'll be able to find command prompt somewhere. I'm just going to search for it, so I'll just say CMD. You can also type command prompt, and just open it up, and that'll give you something like this. This is what we want to find. Once we're here, we can now use NVM to install the latest version of Node Package Manager and Node.js. How we do this is we type NVM, so that's the command to access NVM, install latest. So NVM install latest is the command we type into command prompt, and we just hit enter. That'll run the installation process. I'm just going to pause the video or the recording, and I'll be back once that installation is complete. So NVM just finished installing Node Package Manager and Node.js. You can see that it actually gives us the next command to run. So just above where my cursor is now, you can see it says NVM use 14.8.0. That is the version of Node.js that NVM just installed. Your version might be different when you're watching the video, but at time of recording, Node.js is at 14.8.0. So what we can type to tell NVM across our system to use this version of Node.js is NVM use and then the version that you want to use. So mine is 14.8.0, but make sure you type the version it installed for you. And then just hit enter, and this command will run very quickly, but you'll have to click yes to allow the change to occur. Okay, so NVM just finished installing Node Package Manager and Node.js. What we now do is use Node Package Manager to install Firebase. So we want to install Firebase so that we can use it on our own computer rather than just on the console and the dashboard. How we do this is quite simple. It's just another command. We type npm install -g, so dash and then the letter G. That means global. So we're installing Firebase globally, and then we just say Firebase -tools, and we hit enter. This will take a little bit longer to install than the previous installation, so I'm just going to pause the recording again, and I'll be back after npm has finished installing Firebase. Node Package Manager just finished installing Firebase tools. So the next step is to use Firebase to create the actual application locally. So all the files that our website will need to run and display. Remember that we created this folder. I just created mine on my desktop. You could create yours wherever you want. The important thing now is to get the path to this folder. So if you open it up in File Explorer and come to the top here and double click, you can get the path that way. The other way is to hit Properties, and you can get the path over here. You'll have to add the last bit to your folder, the name of your folder. Okay, so we're going to copy paste this path. You could also go through step by step with the command I'll show you now. So we want to access this folder, so I double click it. I'm going to copy it, so Control C is the hotkey, or you could right click and hit copy. And what we do in command prompt is we type chdir. So CHDIR, that stands for change directory. You hit space after that. Paste is right click, so you can just right click on the line to paste what you have copied. And that will change us to that directory. So we'll move to that folder inside command prompt. So I hit enter, and we are now inside that folder. And in this folder, we want to ask Firebase to create our application. Before we do that, we have to actually log into Firebase. And we do that by typing Firebase login. Firebase login. Hit enter. And what this will do is it'll open up in your browser the Google login page so that you can log into your Gmail account and allow Firebase to have access. Okay, it's asking me a question here. It's saying, will we allow Firebase to collect CLI usage? And I'm going to say yes. So this will come up again later, so I just want to show it to you guys now. At the end of the line, it has YN, and you can see one of them is capitalized. The Y is capitalized. That means that's the default option. So you can select an option by typing Y or N and then hitting enter. Or if there's a default option like the capital Y, you can just hit enter to go to the next step. So this, as I said, open up the Google sign-in page. I can select the account that I want to use. So it's the account that we created the project on. We have to allow Firebase CLI to have access to our Google account. So we click allow, and that just loads. And then you get this page that your login was successful. You can now close the browser because we're done with it. There we go. And you can see even in command prompt, it says success logged in as whatever your account was. Okay, great. So the next step is to actually create the application or initialize the application. So we type Firebase space init. So that is I-N-I-T, I-N-I-T. That stands for initialize. So we type Firebase init and we hit enter. It's going to run us through a bunch of questions about what we want our project to do and how we want to set it up. So I'm going to guide you through the questions. Make sure that you answer in the same way I do unless you're sure about what you're doing. So that takes some time to run. So make sure you answer how I do and unless you're sure of what you're doing, and we'll just set up the project. Okay, it took a little while for it to actually run the command. So sorry about that. I just typed Firebase init and it eventually opened up this. It took a little while to get through. So you say, are you ready to proceed? Just hit enter to say yes. That's the first question it asks you. And the next few questions are slightly more complicated. So in this one, it wants us to select a few options. So it gives us a few options. The only one we're interested in is hosting. So you navigate to hosting using the arrow keys, the up and down keys, and just on hosting, hit space. That's the only one we want to activate. There are a bunch of others that you might want later on, but you can come back and change it. You can change it very easily through the Firebase dashboard. So we activate hosting and we're just going to hit enter. Next, we want to select, it's asking us which project we want to use. We've already created a project. That was what we did as the first step. So we're going to say use an existing project, go over that option and just hit enter. Okay, it's going to give us the projects that we have to choose from on our accounts. I have two other projects on Firebase, but I'm going to use the one that we created at the beginning of this video, static-project, and then some random numbers to make it unique. So I'm going to go over that and hit enter. There we go. It's next asking us what we want our public directory to be. So this is where you're going to put all the files and folders that you want to actually use to display to the user. So things that will be publicly accessible on the internet. And I'm just going to call mine public. That's a pretty good and standard name for it. So you can see public is the default option. So I just hit enter. You could have changed the name if you wanted to. Next, it says configure as a single page app. Because this is a tutorial, so it'll be for practice. And actually, it is good for like if this is your own custom website, like an online resume or something like that, then nowadays it's very sensible to just be using a single page app. You can see that the default option here is no. I'm going to say the letter Y, small y, to say that I want it to be yes, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so it was configured as a single page app. And after those options are selected, you can see that Firebase initialization is complete. When you're doing this sometime in the future, it might have changed, but you can just read through the option. They explain them fairly well, and just trust your gut. Trust your gut, and it'll probably work out. Okay. So our Firebase has just created our project. If you go to the folder that we created and navigated to in command prompt, you can see it's added a bunch of files and a folder called public. Inside public, you'll have a file called index.html. This HTML file will be the home page of your website. Okay, so you can see I'm going to open it up in Notepad++. You can open it up in any text editor you like, and you'll see that this is what the home page is. Okay, there are some things that you must not customize here. So there's lots of header information that Google Firebase added automatically. You can change the styling, obviously, but these scripts are important. So unless you know what you're doing, do not change the scripts. There's also a script at the end of your body here, which also allows the app to be hosted through Google Firebase. So you must leave that script alone as well. Okay. What you can change is the body tag. So they give us a nice default message that we'll see now, and then we'll edit that just to show you that this is in fact the homepage of the site. So I'm going to leave index.html for now. I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to go back to command prompt, and I'm going to tell Google Firebase to host the website on my computer. So to treat my computer like the server, just so that I can see what the website looks like before users can. How we do that is we say Firebase serve. Firebase serve, and we hit enter. It'll take a little time to run, and you can see it says serving from, and then the folder, hosting, serving hosting files from public, hosting, local server, and it gives you a little URL. So this URL is not publicly accessible on the internet. It's localhost 5000. And you can see if I open up my browser and I go to localhost 5000, you can see that this is now our website. All right. To show you that this is just displaying the index.html file, I'm going to come to index.html and I'm going to edit it. Okay, so I'm going to remove from the div, I'm going to remove this div message, and I'm going to remove the paragraph that comes after it. And I'm just going to add my own paragraph tag, my own HTML paragraph. So there we go. And I'm just going to type hello, hello world. This is my site. And then I'm going to hit Control S to save, or you could click the save button as well. So Control S to save. Open up my browser, hit Control R or refresh. Okay, so I'm going to refresh, and you can see that now the paragraph displays. So that HTML file is the home page of our site. Great, so that's working, and we can customize this HTML as you guys have probably seen before. There are many tutorials online on HTML. You can also add a CSS file or a JS file to the public folder and use them as you normally would when just playing with these things locally on your machine. So once we're done, we're happy with the website and we're ready for it to be available on the internet, we can stop Firebase Serve. How we stop commands in command prompt is we push Control C, Control and then the letter C. You can see Firebase is asking me, do you want to terminate the batch job? And I'm just going to say yes. So this is just terminating the server. I'm going to say the letter Y, capital Y, and hit enter to terminate it. Now the command to deploy this to the internet so that other people can see it will be Firebase deploy. Firebase deploy. So it's going to upload all the files that we've changed in the public directory, and it's going to just deploy it on Firebase hosting. It'll then give me two URLs. It'll give me two URLs. The first URL will point to the console or the dashboard where I'll be able to view all of the information about my application. The other will be the publicly available URL that users can access. So you can see project console. This is the first URL they give me. I'm going to go over that and I'm going to hit Control C to copy it and then open up my browser and move to that URL. Okay, so I'm opening up that URL. This is the console for our project. So you can see if on the left here, if you click on hosting, it'll take you to this dashboard. And you can see all of the releases. So you can see right now at 12:57 p.m. So you can see that's 1 minute ago when I typed Firebase deploy. That was the last time I deployed the application. And you can also see which domains it is available at. So to visit this app, you could visit static project that URL, or you could visit this URL. And both of them will take you to the project. So you can see, hello world, this is my site. This URL will be accessible to anyone on the internet. It has its SSL certificate already, so it's secure. It's got HTTPS, and Firebase gives you that for free, which is great. And you can then buy your own domain, so through Dynadot or something like that, or GoDaddy, and you could point it to this URL, and then people could access it through that domain instead. And yeah, so that is how to set up a static site to be hosted through Google Firebase. Thanks for watching.